Jeff. It's icurecancer.com. Ian Jacklin here. I'm going to interview Jeff COPD Waters. We've been meaning to do this for quite some time. We have a number of things in common, Jeff and I. COPD is one because my father has it, and I've been trying to get him to do cannabis hemp oil forever so he can breathe again. I just feel so horrible for him. Anybody that's seen somebody that they love with COPD knows what I'm going through. You yourself know what's going through. So anyway, welcome, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. You're definitely right. It's COPD is horrible. I hate it. I hate COPD with a passion. As much as you hate cancer with a passion, I hate COPD with a passion as much.
Yeah, and that's another common thread we have is Ronnie Smith. He was our good friend. May he rest in peace. I learned about cannabis hemp oil through him for cancer, and you learned about it through him for the COPD, correct?
Yeah, I learned. Actually, what happened was, if we'll jump through my story a little bit, but it's all been out there. But I had an allergic reaction that started from lisinopril, a blood pressure medicine that I've been taking for 4 years prior. It caused me to swell up, and I went to two different hospitals, local hospitals. I finally had to go about an hour and a half away to a hospital in a bigger city, and they found out that not only was I having that allergic reaction, but I had staph pneumonia, and I didn't know it. I thought it was just my COPD. So within 24 hours, they had me in a medically induced coma and on a ventilator, and I spent 28 days total in the hospital. Probably 20 of those days in critical intensive care on a ventilator, and not knowing, my family not knowing if I was going to make it from day to day, literally. And anyway, when I recovered and I got home, the doctors there, and back up a minute, the doctors there that treated me were fresh out of medical school from overseas. And these doctors, whenever they brought me out of the coma and I started functioning a little bit, they said, man, those medicines that you're taking for your COPD, you need to get off of some of those because they have a higher risk for pneumonia. And if you keep taking those medicines and you get pneumonia like this again, you might not beat it this time. You might not make it. So they started prescribing me vitamins and pushing me a little way away from pharmaceutical. And when I got home, I started researching natural and alternative methods to cure COPD or deal with COPD. And there wasn't a lot out there. There were a lot of different methods for dealing with COPD, but not so much curing or bringing the results that I wanted anyway. So I got on Facebook, started poking around and joined some groups, and somebody in a COPD group, I'm not going to say their name, but I don't know if they want me to, but they mentioned that they cured their COPD with cannabis oil. That's the first person I ever came across that said they used cannabis oil for COPD. Then I went on my own and started searching out, and I found Ronnie's group. When I found Ronnie's group, I got in touch with Ronnie, and Ronnie's like, hey, man, I'll send you a sample, no problem. So Ronnie sent it to me, and instantly, when first time I took the cannabis oil, I mean, just within minutes, I'll not say minutes because I did it on my tongue, but I would say within about 20, 30 minutes, I was feeling relief in my chest. The tightness was going away. I was breathing easier. I was a lot more relaxed. I wasn't anxious. And from then on, man, I just kept getting better and better. And then I didn't ever expect these results whenever I started it. I never thought that I would turn my life around this way. But as I started getting better, man, I started incorporating a healthy diet, exercise. I became a little bit of a health nut to those people around me. And now it's been since that all started. It's been just a little over 2 years. Well, no, yeah, a little over 2 years because March 27th would have been 2 years. And now at that time I was close to 190 pounds. Now I weigh 130 pounds. I take no more pharmaceutical medicines. I take no over-the-counter medicines. Basically, cannabis in one form or another is my go-to for anything that I have a problem with. And I consider it to be a vitamin, an essential vitamin for our body. And it's literally, as the old saying, milk does a body good, cannabis does a body good, man.
That's the truth. I've been trying to tell people since day one because, well, I learned from day one from Ronnie that it was because he had cured a number of people, 300 plus or so, of cancer. Now, I do know it's 100%. I've never seen anybody not cure cancer using cannabis hemp oil for skin cancer. But the results for other kind of cancers were a little more disappointing because 100% cure is really good. But anything
Right.
less than that's going to break your heart, of course. And unfortunately, for some of all the different cancers, you need a lot more than just the oil. So it was sort of disappointing, but at the same time, not really, because I'm like, wait a minute. Pardon my French, but fuck cancer. What about depression? What about COPD? What about the stomach going Crohn's? I mean, what about just diabetes and my aches and pains, my arthritis? Because I started getting depressed, I guess, because it wasn't the silver bullet, the be-all, end-all, 100% for everything. But then I realized, wait a minute, it pretty much is for everything else, and it's pretty close for cancer. It's nothing's 100% on cancer because there's so many types. But I'm glad you brought that up because it is. Ladies and gentlemen, forget about all the horrible, horrible things out there. If you just want to go out with your friends and maybe not drink 3 to 6 beers and wake up feeling shitty the next day, or as in my day, 30 to 60 beers, then take some cannabis, and you'll feel much better is all I'm trying to say. But for this show, and it's really warm to my heart to be able to do this because my father, again, he's been suffering with COPD. And I've seen the pictures. I wish I should have I got to get better at this Google Chats because I know there's a way I can show pictures while we do this. But there's pictures of you in their hospital bed. You're all swollen. You got tubes all in you. And look at you now. You look amazing. You can tell you've dropped that 60 pounds or whatever it was. And good that you got on the bandwagon there. So people out there.
I'm amazed at the prospect, the progress that I made. Whenever I first started this, and whenever I first got into cannabis, so I was like, no way, cannabis oil to treat COPD, a lung condition. I gotta be shitting me, man. It ain't gonna work, But I thought, hey, if it helps me, I was willing to try it. And if it helps me, and even just with, like you said, depression, if it helps my depression, if it helps my PTSD, man, it's worth a shot. And people today even
PTSD, right? Tell me about that because I've got a number of Vietnam guys that call me all the time, and I'm like, I tell them to put it on their skin because a lot of Vietnam guys got skin issues, and B, eat it because forget about it, just takes it away. Are you saying the same thing?
Yeah. My PTSD wasn't from military. It was from the whole experience in that hospital, man. But when I got home from the hospital, I was depressed. I couldn't sleep. I had hallucinations and nightmares and things that were weaved in between reality and not reality. That so much of it seemed so real that when I got home, there's dreams I had where I was being killed, and woke up one time when I thought a nurse had taken me and abducted me down to another part of the wing and tried to rig me up to something. I don't know what that was all about, but it was really real to me. And when I came home, I was depressed. So bad depressed that I wanted to kill myself, but my moral fiber wouldn't let me do that, and also my family that I have, still around me. So, but when I got on the cannabis soil, man, all that just went away for the most part. Now I still think about those events. I still think about the PTSD events, but they're not so strong and profound. I don't dwell on them. I can speak to my wife about the circumstances now and just end the conversation instead of coming back and saying, 20,000 questions to her all night about it. And that was what I was doing. My wife was like, I'm tired of hearing about it, man. I want to talk about it all night. And now it's not like that anymore. I don't have that issue, and it's just a relief. And the depression's gone away. And one of the things that I've learned, and through this is, and I thought about back on it now, is my doctors that I used back then had a pill for everything. If I told them, man, my farts aren't smelling bad enough, they'd have a pill for it. I guarantee it. They had me on one time at 22 different medicines, man. I looked back up some of my prescription history the other day, 22 different medicines. I had a lot of different conditions. COPD is one of the ones. Hemochromatosis, which your body produces too much, your liver produces too much iron in your body and can cause it can be fatal also as well. Also, depression. I had high blood pressure. I had cholesterol problems. I had anxiety issues. I had you name it, I probably had it. But the doctors that I had, that was their answer, man. Just throw pills at me, throw pills at me. And now I wonder if some of those pills shouldn't even been taken together, to be honest with you. I don't know, but I'm wondering that. But, now I don't, I live totally differently now, man. I haven't dealt with a doctor in 2 years because I haven't needed one. And when I have gotten sick a couple times, I got the flu, which was unbelievable this year. There were 2 different strains of the freaking flu going around, apparently. But I got the flu twice this year and never went to the doctor. And at that time, I was working. I went back to work for a little while. And I was working, and I only missed 1 day or 2 days of work out of that while I was watching other people missing weeks for being out with the flu. And what was my secret? My secret was cannabis oil. I used colloidal silver, and I used some drops. They're not off the top of my head right now. I've got so many things running through my mind, but some drops I used in my water, and like potassium drops. I can't remember the name. But anyway, that's what I used, and I didn't use any pharmaceutical, no over-the-counter, no doctors, no hospitals. I haven't. Back whenever I was sick with COPD, man, it was a regular occurrence for me to see an emergency room all the time, and frequently I'd be in the emergency room, and it was always the same thing. They'd give me some albuterol in my in the nebulizer, give me some oxygen, maybe give me a script for a new inhaler, and send me on my way. But I haven't seen a doctor or emergency room in 2 years now, man. And I don't.
How do you take the cannabis? Do you just eat it, or do you also use the like what I have here? Because I used to be a heavy cigarette smoker, so now I smoke the oil through the vaporizer. To get the CBDs and THC right into the lungs. Do you do that as well, or are your lungs too shot? Do you need to just eat it?
Well, what I started out for the majority of my treatment time was just doing cannabis oil on my tongue. I preferred it on my tongue. A lot of people don't like it on the tongue because of the taste, but I actually like it. Prefer it. It doesn't bother me. And the highest amount, and the thing about it, with cancer, they have a certain protocol on how much cannabis oil you want to get in your system, and it's not so much with COPD the same way, and also the strains are different. But I started out trying to get back to your question. Now I'm going around in circles here, but
No, that's all right.
I started out with just cannabis oil on my tongue, and I started out with just a small pinhead size twice a day. Once at night, once in the morning, and I increased. Now, the most I ever had to take on a consistent basis, the most I worked up to was a total of a half a gram a day, split up into 2 doses. If I was having a bad day or something going on, I wouldn't hesitate to add more, or you do more during the day, But I only took a total of a gram one time, I think, and that wasn't intentional. It was an accident, and I was able to function, but it was pretty intense. I'll tell you that, man. But that's how I started. Now I use edibles. I make my own butter, and my wife loves to cook, so my wife incorporates my butter in just about every meal I have, and she likes the fat Jeff better. So she'll bring her trick. She tricks me, tries to trick me anyway. What she'll do is she'll make me a big old meal of everything, and she'll fill my plate up with it. She knows I don't like to throw away any cannabis or anything. I like to use everything, So she says, I know you'll eat that whole plate. So she's trying to add a few more pounds back on me that way. But as far as vaping, man, the problem that I found with vaping is it's a strange world getting into the vape, finding the right vape. I bought a vape off eBay, I think it was, and it was supposed to do the dry, which I thought would be easier for me, just have one to do the dry herb. But I got it, and it's just a pain in the ass, man. You have to clean the strains like I don't know if it's the cannabis I have, it's so sticky, or if it's that model of pen. But after a couple of hits, man, you got to take that sucker apart and change the strains. It's just a pain in the ass. So I don't use that as much, but I do the edibles. I use tincture. I make my own oil. I'll do anything cannabis related. I'll do. I make cookies. I make whatever. I try to keep as much of it in my body as I can, and as cost effective as I can. Now I'm at the point where I don't have to take it quite as much as what I was before. I'm more of a maintenance type, I think, phase in my condition now. But also to tell you, if I've never been scared of cannabis, man. I'm never been scared. If somebody came up to me, and people are going to hate me saying this, I'll tell you right now, especially people in the COPD community, but if somebody came up to me right now and showed up to my house, a friend of mine, and had a big fat joint and said, "Hey Jeff, you want to smoke this with me?" I would smoke it with him. It would not scare me or concern me to do that a bit, because I know what the plant does. The only thing I would be worried about is when you're sprayed with, what chemicals were used on it. That's what you need to be concerned about. Not if you grow a healthy organic plant and have no chemicals on that plant and it's all natural, it's not going to hurt you, brother. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to help your lungs. But mainly I'm oil and butter, man, and edibles. That's pretty much what I do all day long.
Okay, well, I can tell it's probably more about where you live and the sign of the times. I'm in LA, so we have some of the, well, I shouldn't say that because there's the internet. I got this on the internet, but you can get different kinds that you can squeeze the oil in there, and you can find good vaporizers. You can even get the, like a lot of people are smoking the, what do they call it, the shatter, and the different high potency THCs that basically come almost like the oil. So there's many ways of doing it, and that's just something that I've been finding because I'm able to hit that no smoke, no flower, no tobacco. It's just pure vaporizer into the lungs. So FYI, this is a show, as you all know, we're a cutting edge. We're just learning as we go, and you can sort of learn from us as we go. Because, I mean, in Canada, my dad won't even try any of this for his COPD, and it's bad, his COPD, because it's not legal yet. And he's a good guy, you know. He's got a heart of gold, and he believes in the law, or the letter. He'll follow the letter of the law, where I'll only follow the spirit of the law.
Right.
The younger generation of us kids, you know.
But
I worry.
What I would say about the law is, you know, I follow the law pretty much. I don't even jaywalk. So, I mean, you know, if this is the only thing that I'm doing as far as the law is concerned, and just to give you a heads up, I got a neighbor right behind me over here. He's running for chief of police. He's a cop. So, I mean, I'm sitting in my backyard talking to you about this in an illegal state right now, my friend. So, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, well, you just got, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Let's see. So, well,
I'll tell you, the thing about it with COPD, and you know, I've got a group now treating COPD with cannabis, and 1,000 members now. I've grown that group up in about 7 months' time, 8 months' time, I think. But we have a lot of members in there that report when they vape, they check their oxygen levels, and their oxygen levels raise immediately after they vape. So that's a positive sign on vaping. But like you said, there are a lot of the older generation of folks, especially in COPD groups. I don't post a lot in COPD groups anymore, especially about my cannabis, because the older folks just get so enraged and upset about it, man. I mean, they are offended by my post saying cannabis oil treats COPD. I mean, and that's just some of the older folk. We've been lied to. I mean, their generation was lied to a lot worse than ours. And we're about the same age, I think, man. And I know when I was growing up, I was always taught it was a bad thing. Whenever I was a teenager, man, I smoked weed, you know. And matter of fact, my mom thought I was a hardcore weed addict there for a while, you know. And that's when I was 15, 16 years old. But times are changing, attitudes are changing, man, and you can't shut yourself out to new ideas and new options. You have to be able to learn and grow.
it's so ironic.
And unfortunately,
you know how the roles reverse as you get older. It's like now I'm the parent, my parents are my children, because I have to have that talk with them that they had with me. In reverse, I have to explain to them that the government actually is evil. I was right, and they actually are just puppets for the even more evil ones. And turns out marijuana is not only not bad for you, it's the best thing for you. I mean, of all things in your medicine cabinet, there should be cannabis hemp oil in there, because that's for everything, pretty much, you know. So it's just ironic, and it's just so sad to have to watch my father suffer, knowing all he's got, and because it's Canada. I mean, America gets the weed from BC. Smart Americans do, anyway. and it's like, but if you're worried about the law, you still can't touch marijuana, anything medicine wise in Canada. So we're trying to change the laws up there too. It's a funny generation gap thing. Um, let's see, is there anything else? Let's bring up your group again. What's your group?
What's that?
What was your group again? Let's bring up your group. COPD. Are you hearing me?
Oh, well, the only thing that I want, everybody to know is again, with that group, I've got the group, and also now I'm starting out a new thing. Over the past 2 years almost, man, I've had so many patients that I've helped and sent to and gave them aid and direction and guided them and shared with them how I've done things and so now I'm embarking on a new thing I'm going to try, and it's basically I've set it up to be like a life coach for COPD patients, and not just cannabis wise, but health and diet and lifestyle changes. And one thing with COPD patients, depression is big, man, and COPD patients. So sometimes some of these people on Facebook and these patients, they don't have anybody else, man. They don't have friends or family, and a lot of the times, friends and family don't understand this disease anyway. So I'm starting out as a service as a life coach. Will be done through Google Chat like this, Hangouts, or through email or phone calls or whatever works best for the patient, and we'll work through and get them back into a healthy lifestyle. Because really, man, it's not just cannabis oil that does it. I mean, it's a bigger effect than that. You can't just sit on your ass and take cannabis oil and expect to get better, man. It just doesn't work that way.
Same with cancer. Same with cancer. So let's go with that for a bit. Tell us what else. What kind of diet are you talking about? What kind of supplements are good to open up the bronchial? Or I mean, what is it that people should be doing on top of oil? I heard something recently about black seed oil is even good for inflammation. So, what do you feel?
I didn't do a lot. I think less is better. I never got into a shitload of supplements and all that. I have a few that I take, mainly vitamins and things, and vitamin C. I always need vitamin C in my body. Usually with COPD, your immune system's pretty messed up, man. You get sick pretty easy. If you get sick, that's bad. That's bad for COPD patients. It could lead to a major, major event. So the main thing is diet. Diet is, oh man, I can't stress it enough how important it is to have a fresh, balanced, healthy diet, man. If you drink soda pop, you need to kick that to the curb. If you're eating if you're doing a lot of dairy, kick that to the curb with COPD, man. It's not good for you. It creates mucus, creates issues. But diets, and when I say that, in my experience, I didn't start off on a crazy diet all of a sudden, just jump into it gung ho. I did it myself. I worked foods in and out. Uh, like I would cut out some stuff and replace it with something else, and I would do it in little increments. And that's how I've been successful on my diet, is because I worked it to me, customized it to me. I didn't try to do by somebody else's standards, and that's what I always tell people. There are main things and food groups that you need to look into and you need to actually eat a lot of, and there's some things you need to avoid, but you've got to be able to set it up so you don't fail. If you go into a lot of problems with diets is you go into that diet and they have some things in that diet that you're not prepared to cut out of your diet, and then you fail. So if you do it yourself, customize it to you, and work things in and out that way, it seems to work best. But I mean, I eat a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. I did a lot of juicing. I still like to juice smoothies. Um, I limit my sugar. I don't do very, very little sugar if I do any sugar at all. Uh, but those are the main things. Then at that point, exercise is vital, also. And anybody can do exercise. And I'm not talking about you just got to get up and do jumping jacks or push-ups or run a mile. If you can find an object that has a little bit of weight to it and put it into your arms and sit in your chair and lift it, that's a little bit of exercise right there at the start. And I know with some elderly patients and some older patients, that's all they can do right now. But that's a start. Whenever I was in the hospital and I was so bad, that's what my wife did. there was a flashlight by my bed, and she started making me curl that flashlight. And man, that flashlight at that time, it felt like it was 25 pounds or something, man. But it wasn't. It wasn't even a pound. I'm sure, probably a few ounces. But that's how I started in the hospital. And then I didn't have any rehabilitation at the hospital. I had one doctor that came to me. Actually, one of the nurses came to me one night. I was in the middle of one of my hallucinations, crazy things going on, and I thought they were having a freaking dance at the hospital ward or something. I don't know what it was, but this poor nurse came in there and asked me, if I wanted. I thought he was asking me if I wanted to go out and join him for that dance out there they were having with all the residents. But I said I'd be glad if I could just get up and walk out of this bed, man. So a little bit later, this guy that he brought with him was like the head of the department. And he came down and he started getting me up about it. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm gonna walk you. So he got me and walked me around the nurse station one time, and that was the start of it. Then every night or every afternoon he would come in and walk me once a day, all the way up until the last day before I left. What he didn't know, I was sneaking out of my room and walking around even when I wasn't supposed to be anyway. But that last day he said, have you tried stairs yet? I said no. So he took me out and we did up and down a couple flights of stairs. And that's all the rehabilitation I got. But that was enough exercise to get me going. As a matter of fact, when I left the hospital, they came to me and asked me if I wanted to leave if they wanted to bring a wheelchair or how I wanted to leave. I said, no, I'm going to walk out. And man, that was the longest walk I've ever had in my life. I was so weak. I was second guessing it, man. Halfway through that walk, I was thinking, man, I probably should have told them I wanted a wheelchair.
Right. Well, you know what you're telling me, man, and this is really making me feel warm inside is, what you will now want to do that you found this relief is sort of be a coach, a life coach, and help people. And it sounds, because that's exactly what that guy was for you in that hospital. That just those few moments he would come and spend with you. That's what people need to understand. We need to we need to get personal again. The thing, I'm no doctor. I just studied people that cured themselves of cancer. So when people call me, I'm basically just a friendly voice, offering them validation to anything. If they've heard good things about holistic medicine, I'm going to validate that because I've been watching it with my own eyes for 17, 18 years now. And so I take my hat off to you, sir, for doing that. We need more people like you to help those out there that don't understand about it right now. And you're the proof. I mean, tell me the difference. What was it like breathing before, and then what was it like breathing after you got the cannabis into your system?
The breathing before, man, it was horrible. I wouldn't even call it breathing. It was just, it was horrible, man. I had like I said, I had a sack of, and I still have a sack sitting in my garage of inhalers and medicine that I always do. I always had, I had 3 inhalers I did in the morning, plus a rescue inhaler throughout the day. And that still wouldn't get me. It wasn't nothing to what it is now. Now my lungs are open, man. My lungs are good. And I don't have any problems. The only time I ever have any issues if I really, really exert myself too much. Like, example, we just moved recently. And we've got a big couch that flips out with the I can't remember what you call it, but where the flips out like a recliner.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's heavy. Me and my wife tried to carry that thing and move it, and man, I was huffing and puffing on that one because it was so heavy. But that hardly ever happens. And matter of fact, I don't carry any inhalers anymore. I don't use any inhalers. Before, I always had to have an inhaler in my pocket everywhere I went. If I wasn't wearing oxygen, which I wore oxygen in a while, I did. Most of the time I wore oxygen at night, but during the summertime it would get so hot and humid sometimes I'd have to use it during the day also. But I don't know if there's a way that I can say into words, express, to let everybody know exactly how much of a difference it is. It's mind-blowing, man. I mean, like I said, when I started this journey, I never expected this.
Isn't it because, like, normally you have whatever's in your lungs, it's not able to, it's inflamed, right? So the inflammation is probably what it brings it down, and you're able to get oxygen in it. Is that the science behind it?
It depends on what exact. COPD is actually a blanket term. It covers emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Some people want to lap asthma into that, but it's not so much. Asthma is not so much the same. It's a little different deal. But in my case, I had lung scarring, which is early symptoms of emphysema, and I had chronic bronchitis. And So I had a bad cough. This, my in periods whenever I like what they call extubation, whenever you have that, it's basically you feel like you're not getting enough air. You feel like you can't breathe, and you're gasping, and you're doing everything you can, and then your body starts freaking out because you're not getting that air and that oxygen in your body, and so it basically throws your whole body out of whack. It's not just your lungs; it affects everything, man. It affects your whole life with COPD. Um, just being diagnosed with it is enough, because I'll tell you, when I got diagnosed with it, I'd never heard of COPD. They didn't have all these I am JEFF and I have COPD commercials and all these different ones you see on the air all the time. None of that was happening. And I got diagnosed through an emergency room first. And then I didn't no idea what it was. And I came home and started looking it up and researching it online, and my life's over. You know, that's pretty much how I felt at that point. And for a long time, when I was sick with COPD and when I was using conventional medicine, doing everything my doctors told me, I wasn't planning life anymore, man. I was planning my end. My wife and I already discussed all those things, and I couldn't plan anything a day in advance because I didn't know if I was going to be able to be sick, if I was going to be sick or be able to do it or not. Now I can plan things out. I can live a life. I don't have to live looking towards the end anymore, and that's to me that's helped my body so much also, because that depression's away. I'm not sitting around anymore. I'm active. I'm exercising. I'm doing things, and that just it helps so much, your whole body. But not only that. I mean, one of the things that I learned too is it's not through dealing with patients and also dealing with Ronnie and everything, is that not everybody's going to be cured, and not everybody's going to have what they need inside them to be able to heal their disease, because it takes a lot of dedication. One of the things I talk about is I used to be a big Mountain Dew drinker, and I would drink a 2 liter of it in one day easy, man, if not more. And when I finally kicked that Mountain Dew to the curb, man, that's some great things started happening there. But that was a big thing for me, kicking Mountain Dew. And there were times, and there were people like my wife would say, "It's not going to kill you. Nobody's going to know if you have one can of Mountain Dew." No, I'll know. And for me, it was important for me to kick that, and the other things too. But Mountain Dew is a big thing. It was important to kick that. Not everybody can do that. I know some people that I've helped and I've advised, and I've sent them to oil makers to get them oil and advised them on diets. And then I'm a month later or so, they were doing good on oil, and a month later I see them eating cheeseburgers at McDonald's or whatever, and just throwing their diet out the window. And you can't do it, man. It's a lifelong thing. Just like, and the same thing with cannabis oil. People ask me all the time, a big question I get, and they ask it like it's a bad thing. So you're gonna have to take cannabis oil for the rest of your life? Probably, yeah.
Like it's a bad thing.
I don't see any reason why I would not. I mean, it does so much for me that it doesn't do anything bad to me. There's nothing bad about it, so I don't see why I would.
We used to break the law to get marijuana. You think we're gonna have to take it? Oh shucks.
Yeah. And the same people who are asking are the same ones who have a bottle of pharmaceutical in their hands, And pharmaceuticals just addicting, and more addicting than cannabis oil or any cannabis products I've ever tried.
Right, and then you got off one of the main ones. That Mountain Dew is hardcore. And you remind me so much of Ronnie, because Ronnie's main thing was Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket the first time I ever met him. I'll never forget. But and then unfortunately it came back and bit him in the ass, because I think you must know his story. He's been living with.
He actually called me from the hospital whenever he went in the emergency room that final time, because as you know, I know you did the interview with Dave, I think was his name.
Yeah.
And there was rumors going around about bad oil and all that. What happened was Ronnie had got some oil from somebody. And Ronnie contacted me a little later, and he said, "This person wants to donate some oil to you. Is it cool if I give him your address?" Sure, man. Anybody wants to send me oil, I'll take it. I'm not going to turn it down. So then it must have been a week or so later, And I think, we talked off and on anyway, but all of a sudden, out of the blue, he called me, or he had somebody message me and told me to call him. And I called him, and he was in the hospital, and he said he just went in. I mean, he just went in. He didn't know at that point it was like the leukemia. At that point, he thought that maybe it was that oil or he had a heart attack or something. He wasn't sure. But he said, man, don't take that oil if you get it. That's bad oil, man. Do not take it. And so I never got the oil anyway, so I don't know what happened with it. But so I talked to him several times, but when he was in the hospital and when he came home, but I kind of sensed that, he was in a rough spot right there with leukemia and everything going on, and I just wanted to respect him, and it's kind of, I didn't want to bother him. I figured he was his family, at that point, that's the best thing. It's just, deal with your family and deal with your loved ones, and then, so I stayed out of it at that point. I wish I'd called him one last time before he passed away, but we had a lot of great conversations. He was a great soul, man, and everything I do is try to pass on what he did for me and pay it forward.
Right, me too, man, me too. He had a heart of gold, and just for anybody watching, he's one of the old school guys. He used to work with Jack Harrer, and when they were making the oil for Jack and his whatever he had going on, he would be, taking spoonfuls out of it, and he noticed whatever his health issues were going on were going away. And in retrospect, I see it all now. The guy always had leukemia, but he kept it at bay with the oil, and pretty much that's it, because he was, again, a Kentucky Fried Chicken eating motherfucker. Yeah. So. Yeah. When he got thrown in jail one day because he was driving through Arizona, and even though Arizona's a legal state, he had a warrant from his arrest from a long time ago, some other bullshit. And anyway, so he got thrown in jail. And when you go in jail, there's no medicine, there's no Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's worse in jail. So by the time 3 months later he gets out, his gout's back, his leukemia is in full force, and he was like not doing well. They let him out to die basically. Right. And I got him on a diet, and we sent him the proper medicines and the proper supplements, and everything was going great for a few months. And then he told me himself the last time I talked to him that he got lazy and just had been smoking the odd bowl, wasn't taking his oil. It wasn't, and it got him. It got him. So it's ironic too, because he said about 20 minutes before he got pulled over, he was thinking, man, I should go to jail again and lose some weight, because I guess he lost weight in jail. As a joke, he said that in his head. And 20 minutes later, he gets pulled over and he's in jail. So be careful for what you wish for, folks, because that ended up being his undoing. Now he's on the other side because of that one cop wouldn't let him slide with that marijuana, even though he had the damn license.
Yeah, he did. The thing about it with Ronnie, though, is he did so much good for so many people that his legacy will live on. It lives on now, and it will be. I think generations later, you'll hear about Ronnie Smith. I wanted to
do that for him with the first videos I put up on him, even though I didn't realize he was already online, but I put up because I guess he had a couple of stalkers that really didn't like him and were doing things to try and hurt him. And I wanted to meet the guy first. I always got to look somebody in the eye, shake their hands, and be around them, feel their energy, their auras, and everything. And I knew the guy had a heart of gold. As soon as I met him, he was on the money. He was like the right guy. And so I tried to do all I could for him. And that bit me in the ass, because I think some of those negative people came after me for a while. You helped me out one time and warned me I was being attacked. And it's always the same story. So-and-so does this, this, and this. It's like, it's almost textbook. It's like there's shills out there with a list ticked out. Oh, let's go after this guy,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you heard about what happened to me, but I was sick so bad with COPD that I couldn't work anymore. I had to quit working, and that's for about four and a half years, I guess it was. I wasn't able to work. And months ago, I was able to go back to work, and not just back to work, at a physical job. And so I worked at that job for 3 months, and somebody, I don't know if they created a fake account and slid into my group or what, but somebody within my group took screenshots of, I think I had a picture of a cookie, or I said I was eating a cannabis cookie or something, and started emailing my job. And the two guys that were operations guys knew me personally, knew my family, so they ignored the first 2 emails. The third email got to the owner of the company, who didn't know me from jack squat, And so basically, my wife works for the same company. So basically, I had to resign the job. That was, either if you resign the job, we'll still give you great personal references. We'll just say that it was, and we hate to do this. If it was a legal state, this wouldn't happen, and it's not anything to do with your job performance. Matter of fact, they had tears in their eyes as much as I had tears in my eyes after we ended that conversation. But that is this type of crap that people out there are doing, and they've done to me, and I don't. It affects my family. It pisses me off so bad because if you want to talk shit about me on Facebook or say things horrible about me on Facebook, hey, that's all fine and dandy. But don't start getting into people's personal lives and affecting their jobs and their family and their well-being. That's just evil. And you're a sad, sick. Anybody who does that, sad, sick person.
Yeah, I know. It's unreal what's going out there. I always tell people, even though we're good now, the feds are on our side nationwide. They're saying medical marijuana, we're not going to mess with you anymore, and it's just a matter of time before everybody is legal. Thank God.
This next election is going to be huge.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing I tell everybody though, and even me and my friends, even though we're totally legal here in California, we still act like we're it's illegal because I don't trust the feds. I mean, they still make us pay income taxes. It's like that's illegal. They can do whatever they want. So I tell everybody, don't tell anybody anything. For one, pretend you're living in Russia because you are, and just go about your business. But know that the laws are changing, and in the general, we're getting better, I believe, because we're in the age of Aquarius. We're out of that dark ages, and every day from that December 21st date back in 2012. Gets better, a little bit better. So, and today has been a great day because now we learned about COPD. Dad, I hope you're listening, man. Anything else you want to say before we go, brother?
No, man, I appreciate it. I enjoyed talking to you, and we can do it again sometime. Anytime you're ready, we'll make things click. Now I know how to work this a little better to maybe run smoother next time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we got on good. And once again, if you go on Facebook to Jeff COPD Waters, is one of his groups, correct?
Correct. That's my Facebook profile, and my group is Treating COPD with Cannabis, and it has close to 3,000, if not 3,000 members right now. So that's a group you want to look for, and we have a great group of people in there. And it's not just COPD people. There's also some activists in there. There's also some oil makers in there. They don't pop up, and we don't deal with selling oil in the group and that type of thing. But there are some in the background watching, and I think you're in the group. I'm not sure if you are or not. I think you are in the group. But it's for everybody, and it's with a focus on COPD. And cannabis and sharing our success stories in there. I'm not the only one, man. I'm just the loudest speaking loudmouth that's out there telling everybody that shouldn't be running his mouth, but I feel a moral obligation to do so. So if you in that group, it's a closed group. You can come in there and say and do what you want, not have to worry about anything. We screen it. I've had different administrators through the time. I've got one other administrator with me now. We keep a pretty tight ship in there. We make sure we screen profiles big time before we let somebody in to make sure they're safe. So that's just two options. You can friend me or you can come into the group. And if you want any advice, any help, also, like I said, I'm just in the early phases of starting the COPD life coach. I've got a page on Facebook set up on it, and I'm starting to take patients for that. But I enjoyed speaking with you, man, and I'm glad to finally put a little bit more Facebook aside. Even though we're not handshaking face to face, it's a little bit more intimate, and I like this a lot better than just having to talk to you on Facebook.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And any friend of Ronnie's is a friend of mine. So thank you so much for doing my show, and thank you everybody. Tune in next week, and we'll have more truth for you. Peace.